All right, let's see if this works. Welcome back. Welcome to Galactic Historian Office Hours. I'm going to do that whole spiel again for those you don't know what had just happened. I had to restart my computer and had some issues with it. So, if you are here, remember, normally we do this on Tuesdays, but I'm doing a little bit of a switch up here. So, we're going to do a new stream schedule. So, we're going to be streaming on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays. I wanted to kind of work smarter, not harder. I kind of polled the community, try to figure out what people wanted, and what I heard was stuff that I generally expected, but I also wanted to make sure that I was right. More content with other content creators. Things like the reason why people like watching the Captain's Table is because it's got more people than just me. It's multiple opinions. It's more engaging. And then you also have the people like lore stuff. They want more engagement with lore and that kind of thing. And they want me to try to do other things other than Star Citizen, to kind of introduce the people to new games, new systems, and do other branch out a little bit, as well as be at a reasonable time for people who are in Europe. Because I know I do have some European fans who are just like, I want to be able to watch you live. So, the plan going forward is we're going to be doing office hours on Thursdays. Fridays we're going to be the Friday night party. We'll bring people in. We'll play some Star Citizen. We might play some other things. I want to stream with other content creators, talk about the game, do some crazy stuff, try to do interesting things like I used to do back in the day, but with other people. Saturdays are going to stay the same. Sundays, I'm going to start streaming at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. British time, whatever that is right now. It's going to change over November 1st, I know. I think it's like 5 p.m. right now, but that kind of thing. And then we will... and I'll be streaming Star Citizen. I'll probably be doing Zero to Hero. I might do some other games every so often on Sundays, but we'll do Star Citizen. And then on Monday, we'll be doing something new. So I've been putting together groups of people who are interested in learning to play Warhammer 40k. One of the things I've been doing for free time when I have free time, because it takes a long time, and maybe once a week, or if I just don't sleep, twice a week. I've been doing Warhammer 40k on Tabletop Simulator. There's a couple of mods out there that lets you do it. I found a community that's really interested in it, and basically you can find a game anytime you wanted to. So I've learned to play Warhammer 40k 9th edition. The best thing about Tabletop Sim is that you don't have to buy the models. I don't want to be that guy when it comes to like, oh yeah, don't play Warhammer, play Warhammer on tabletop, because you can't beat the tabletop. Quick before we get started. This came in, finally. My guard army. I haven't painted it yet, just primed it. But got old Basilisk. Little flamer on the front. I thought this might be a melta-gun, but I don't think you can have meltas on Basilisks, and so it's a flamer. That's going to be painted. So, on Mondays, I put together a crew of people who are either new to 9th edition or haven't played before 40k at all. And I'm going to be doing my games. We're going to do a crusade. And I'm going to be doing my games at least on Mondays. And I brought some other people. Loken's is part of the group. I don't think he's ready to participate quite yet. And there's another streamer, and I've been trying to get more people involved. So if you play 40k and you are a content creator, or not a content creator, if you just want to play and you want to learn, come join our little crusade. It's going to be a little bit of a narrative campaign. We're going to fluff it up a little bit more. We're going to have fun with it, You out, Miles? Oh, Micker. Okay, yeah, we'll be back. I mean, you'll be back. I don't think the debate's like an hour, so we'll be going a little bit longer than that. Good morning there, Aimless. So that's going to be done, and that'll be, and I'll edit those battle reports down a little bit when I get a chance to, in terms of battle reports for YouTube as well. Just kind of like a tabletop sim battle report, fun thing. Anyways, so that's going to be the thing we're going to do on Mondays. And if we're not doing that, I'll also be doing painting streams. We're going to bring back some painting streams a little bit on Mondays, or we'll do something else. We'll have some other fun games going on. Do something with the community. I just wanted to kind of like make Mondays a little bit more flexible and more kind of like the, hey, if we're doing this or not kind of thing. And I wanted to get more availability. So that's kind of what's going on going forward. Speaking specifically of Galactic Historian, well, I want to do more videos, and so I figured I'd make more short videos. So I put together a little short video that I thought it was going to be short. A cool idea that I was calling Galactic Historian Tactics, where I would kind of do a gear video combined with the lore perspective to kind of tie the two together. And so I chose Gemini because Gemini's got cool backstory, and they recently came out. It was like this year, their backstory was published in Jump Point. So I went through and started crafting out their lore, and then I went through all their weapons, and I put all the other weapons together. I put out the details like magazine, the rounds per minute, the ranges that they have, and the prices to kind of like put them up together and be like, okay, so in lore, the fluff, what would this be in Star Citizen? And so it's weird. Was YouTube just dropped for some reason? I do this one more time. Are we back? Fully? Maybe. No issues. Okay, that was a weird glitch. Very weird glitch. I think it was because I'm using Restream. It might have gone through Restream is the issue. But the Restream didn't drop. And I'm still live on YouTube. Is anyone in YouTube still here? Yes, YouTube's still here. Yeah, I'm just checking some stuff. Sorry, dude. Okay. I don't know how much you guys got. But I'm going to move over. It's distracting? Yeah. Okay, cool. I don't know what's going on. Feel free to turn off YouTube, yeah. It was one of those things I just wanted to make sure it was working. And it seems to have collected it. So I'm sorry about the weird glitches. Had some weird like jumps here and there. I'll put it in the top comment as well for it. But yeah, so I don't know how much you guys caught. All I'm going to say is that I tried to do a short video, and I ended up doing a freaking museum piece. it's going to be the next episode after I do the Spoopy video. So, but I'm gonna try to do shorter episodes, like profiles on companies, events, people, things that are like 5 minutes long. You know, something that's very short, a little lore nitpick, like just boop and you're done, kind of thing. So, did I get my freakishly smiley helmet? No, I didn't buy one. I like Spoopy stuff, but just not my style. I haven't done any of the helmet stuff yet, so I might do some of that on Friday. Like take a train to Benny Henge and, you know, go exploring a little bit. I do want to go on to some lore, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the helmets and stuff like that. A little bit more discussion on that. So, let me pull up a jump point for this week or this month. It has some cool stuff in it. Something I saw that I wanted to talk about. And December issue. Horseshoe gray one. Here we go. Let's talk a little bit about the little bit of the Marine history. All right. So, for those of you who don't know, it's important to remember this: is that the UEE Marines are a little different from typical Marines. They're less traditional Marines and more special forces, though they do also operate on ships the way the typical Marines do. They're less Marines and more force recon. At least that was their original pitch. So, one of the things that someone asked about specifically was the Army, like UEE Army. So, let's go back to before the UEE, before the UPE, to the UNE, the first human government, attempting to unite all of humanity under one government. The UNE was formed out of the old UN. So military forces, at least it seems like, at the time, were very similar to modern-day UN peacekeeping forces. They're donated by the countries that are allowing them to be donated, but they're not necessarily... they don't have to be there. And at least back in the time of the UNE, most regiments were broken up by their location. So, for instance, you might have the EU battalions and regiments and stuff like that. The various armies made up of various different locations, people from various different locations. Which is the case, for instance, in the invasion of the liberation of Idris IV. Idris IV, the battle for Idris IV, which was the turning point of the Tevarin War, was the invading force was the UNE army. And at least some of it, if not most of it, was made up of European forces from the EU. One of whom was a captain by the name of Ivar Messer. Darj. He always cringes when I mispronounce things. But part of that team was was a special forces unit. The Army Special Forces Unit, which was made up of not just Army, but Army and Marines, or Army and Navy, is the progenitor of the UEE Marines. In fact, quick Battle of Idris 4. I want to make sure I got his name right. I'm sorry, it wasn't the UNE, it was UPE, but it was at the very beginning of the UPE. 3 transports were lost. Finally, once the Army and the Marines deployed to the planet, the Navy turned to fight. 3 transports were lost during before spilling on the ground. The 112th Infantry Battalion, under Tio Koshi, assaulted what's designated as the Hill, along with Alpha Bravo and Charlie Mechanized Company, on loan from the 3rd Expeditionary as support. After 6 hours of combat, the 112th and the Marines took the hill for the moment. It seemed like the operation was going to be a resounding success. So, the Alpha Charlie and Alpha Bravo and Charlie companies, mechanized companies, were Marine companies. These were formed out of the need for special forces units because Tevarin forces were just annihilating the traditional ground forces and like the typical forces that were designed for protection, even on board ships. You got to remember the Tevarin. Let me look up the name of the Tevarin troops who would be deployed in the prowlers were it's not finding it right here. I have to find the name of it. There's a specialized unit of infiltrators that the Tevarin used on the prowlers. Remember the name of them. I'm not finding it on easy stuff. But these groups were known to kill entire capital ships before they even knew what was going on. So the call for a specialized force to deal with these problems, essentially their own counter to a special forces unit, was called, and they were eventually called the UEE Marine or the UPE Marines. One of the first the Marine expeditionary units, was sent to Idris 4 for that fight. And these were mechanized infantry units. Which I don't know what that means in 2544. I don't know if that means mechs. I don't know if it means, tanks, hover vehicles. I don't know what that means. But we do know that they were adept at using vehicles. Infiltration, a Marine infiltration team led by Sergeant Adam Core, managed to not only discover the nexus of planetary defensive systems, but overtake and assume control over it. This is in Idris 4. They turned the devastating weapon against the massing Tevarin fleet long enough for the UPE naval forces to enter orbit. So, let me paint this a picture a little bit better. The invasion of Idris 4 is happening. Everything's going well. The 112th Infantry Battalion of the UPE Army, with elements of Alpha Bravo and Charlie mechanized companies from the 3rd Marine Expeditionary Unit, are taking over a spot that they're going to be using as a beachhead for landings to retake Idris 4. Then things go wrong. The Tevarin counterattack. It gets nasty. The Colonel Tio Koshi is killed in the counterattack. His replacement is Major Michael Collery, who was Charlie Company, major cargo company, he is killed trying to organize a counterattack, leaving the highest ranking officer on the field, one Captain Ivar Mezer. The second he is told he's in command, he gets the infiltrators from the Marines, Adam Corps, and basically says, take these captured Tevarin hover skiffs and take care of those planetary defenses, because these planetary defenses were being turned on the fleet in orbit, so it was preventing them from getting reinforcements from the fleet that had been arrived to give them support. So the Marines, the first real major Marine action we have in lore is the infiltrators led by Sergeant Adam Corps, who arrive use the hover skiffs, infiltrate the Tevarin weapons facilities, and then turn those weapons on the Tevarin. And they're able to do massive damage to the Tevarin fleet, sending them into disarray, allowing the Navy to regroup and start sending back down reinforcements as well as fighter support. The Marines hold the position as long as they can until the Tevarin realize what's going on, storm the facility where Adam Corps is in. He spikes the defenses, gets out with the hover skiffs and back to UPE lines. But by that point, it was all over. So it's important to understand that in the lore of Star Citizen, Marines are not just the best of the best. They're the things that win wars. They are the force you send when you want to turn a battle, or turn a skirmish or battle or a war into a victory. So you don't use them very lightly. The Marines only come out when shit is getting bad in the UE. So. Did I watch the ISC yet? I have not, no. There's an ISC? I thought they didn't do ISCs until later. I guess they did. Hey, man, Solo. Oh, cool. I'll have to watch it later. If you're taking questions, do you think there could be any connection between the Tevarin and the Vanduul? The Tevarin homeworld is right next to Vanduul space, and the Vanduul first showed up about 70 years after the Second Tevarin War. Probably not, because they don't like each other. They could be like really distant relations, but I don't think there is. It's likely that because the Vanduul, because you got to remember that a lot of places in UEE that were attacked by the Vanduul were colonized by the UEE 200 years before the Vanduul showed up. So we're talking like this area of space may have never even been controlled by the Vanduul, but is now being controlled by them. They may have just been moved into that region because of other pressures. The theory is that there's another alien race that's pushing them from their ancestral lands into UE space. They could have a distant genetic ancestry, like a distant genetic ancestry, like Vanduul or Tevarin that left the planet thousands of years before that, but we don't really know. Yeah, if you're running out of fuel, go to a landing pad anywhere and then pull up on your Mobiglass, hit the Mobiglass, pull up the little wrench icon on the bottom, and that should give you the option to refuel your ship. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Let's go with that one. It's more beers and chat for y'all. So I'm guessing that's right, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if the Tevarin were similar, because, I mean, the Tevarin are likely more or less the Gauls. They're kind of a stand-in for the Gauls, kind of a stand-in for the Carthaginians. They're kind of a generic stand-in for the barbarians that Rome had to fight. So they could work in both ways, because, Gauls weren't necessarily not involved in Germanic politics. So. Barn mammals, they're birds. My theory is that the Cathok are actually robots, sentient species which the Tevarin or which the Xi'an themselves built and have now turned on their masters. It would make sense because most of the Cathok's actions are not directed at the Xi'an in terms of destroying them, more disorienting them and keeping them away from them. For instance, the assassination of the Emperor and like the joint assassination of all of the Emperor's family at the same time. I don't forget what it's called. It's like the Age of Troubles, something like that. That attack, that coordination, is so incredibly precise that it's not impossible for a species to do it, but it would be very difficult to be that precise. And on top of that, while they were so discombobulated, they didn't take advantage of the confusion and invade like you would expect that kind of strike to be followed up with. It seems less like a we're going to screw with you, we're going to mess you up, and more of a stop fighting us, let us go. And you know, who would be the perfect kind of people who are very interested in the Xi'an, the powerful Xi'an Empire, not messing with them, but creators of them. You know, they're creators. The AI peoples of the Cathok could just be trying to survive, you know. Yes, there is the cult of Rijora, but Rijora is no longer actively practiced, and there's not a lot of information remaining of it because it was purged by the Tevarin and by the UEE after the end of the Second Tevarin War. All we know is that Rijora emphasizes honor, stealth, and community. There's a big emphasis on collective defense, collective response, as well as honoring one another. Not necessarily honor in combat, more an honor in that you respect your people, you know? Not so much the samurai bushido kind of kick you out of bed, hand you a sword, and then fight you. More like, we're going to fight you the way we want to fight you, but we're going to do everything our way, kind of thing. Like our own sense of like honor and nobility. What was I going to last say? Oh, and stealth. Stealth seems to be a big theme amongst the Tevarin. Because, you know, unlike a samurai concept of kicking you out of bed, handing you a sword, and fighting you, the Tevarin will stab you in the bed. You will be dead before you realize it. How are the Tevarin children brought up within the UEE? Badly. Of the stories we have of Tevarin who have grown up in the UEE, they're all horrible. One of the stories is from a Tevarin named Clem, whose family was fleeing the Second Tevarin War. All of them died and left him alone on the streets. And his accomplice in life, I use the word partner, but it's not like really a romantic sense, and it's not really a business sense. It's more of like a familial sense. His human partner and him were street rats who basically pulled petty crimes in order to survive. And how they did it was she would have Clem just stand around and make a ruckus, and because he was a Tevarin during the Mezzer era, everyone wanted to kill him. like he's barely tolerated as it is. He makes any kind of ruckus, yeah, he's going to die. So a lot of people are focusing on him and him trying to save himself, like flee for his life. And then you've got Suj Kosi, who's the current senator from the Tevarin homeworld, whose parents were criminals. Like, violent criminals. He talked about how he grew up with gunfire in his home on a constant basis, and the only Tevarin he knew were his close family, and they were all criminals. Like the reality is that Tevarin have this reputation of being criminals, but there's really not a lot of opportunity for them, and they're kind of on the lowest branch of society in the UEE. So, like, most Tevarin are lucky to have parents at all being raised, and if they do, there's a high likelihood that their parents are involved in piracy or criminal activity or other kind of illicit activity, or if they only have one parent because the other parent's in jail or is dead. So yeah, the lifestyle of a Tevarin in the UEE is pretty bleak. So. Sin Shimon, you got to remember that most of the Tevarin, even though that they are counted in the tens to hundreds, on average, it's really not hard to suppress their vote. You know, the biggest population of Tevarin is probably in Elysium, on Jalan, and there may be a couple 100,000 in there with millions of humans. And most of them live in really poor, squalid conditions. And the thing about voting in the UAE is you have to be a citizen. So you have to serve, and the easiest way to do that is serving in the military. And most of them don't have the cultural like impetus to join the military, because most of them see the UAE as an oppressor, you know, because humans aren't nice to them, generally speaking, even on their home world. Those that do serve are often forced to serve in the military, and from what I can gather, they aren't allowed to vote if they're forced into the service, and they're not given citizenship. It's like that or prison, you know. So citizenship is complicated, and it is definitely a way that prevents the Tevarin from being able to vote, because you know it's very hard for the Tevarin to gain citizenship unless they're serving in a very specific way, which is what Suj Kosi wants to do. We don't know how many citizens there are, but we also know that the majority of humans aren't citizens either. That's the thing. The majority of humans aren't. So if you have a population that's trying to become citizens so they can get more representation, which is what Suj Kosi wants to do, you would have a disproportionate amount of Tevarin in the voting population compared to their population in this UEE, which means that their concerns would be over-reflected in their in that. So the idea of having an attempt to suppress the vote is very, very obvious. If there's at least it's so common to see the Tevarin in the military. Like, it's so common that there are comments about how there is a Tevarin on every ship in the UEE fleet. Every ship has at least one Tevarin. Now, if that was the case, and your average ship, it goes from 20 to 1,000, if there's at least one Tevarin, that's a lot of Tevarin who would ended up voters. And if they voted as a block, that's dangerous. That's a lot of voting. So since Gemini was developed by Tevarin and sold by a human, how did that affect both of them in creating brand business? Actually, that's one reason why I brought up Clem, was because I'm doing that video on Gemini. So how it affected it was, Clem didn't do it as a business model. He did it for fucking protection. Like, he didn't want to die. So he developed a weapon that he could make and maintain that had a punching power, because he couldn't buy one on his own. They couldn't afford one, but he was able to scrape it together with parts. And what happened was that it was Polly's idea to sell them. So she took what was called the hand cannon and showed it off at a local bar, got a fine for it, but then also got pre-orders for it by showing it off at the local bar. So they used that the down payments on those weapons to then open up their own shop and then hand built all of the weapons and then continued to expand from that. And whenever people got curious about who was the person making the weapons, Polly would say, "Oh, it's my brother, Clem." And they're like, "Well, where is he?" It's like, "Well, he's got a crippling social disorder, a social anxiety disorder, so he doesn't want to be out in the public. That's why I'm in public." In fact, the name Gemini actually stems from that lie, or from, well, it's not really a lie. They were kind of like brother and sister, but like from that tale, because Gemini obviously is in reference to the twins Castor and Pollux, which is what the Gemini symbol comes from. Fun story, when I was doing a lot of research, Castor and Pollux are also known to be, they're gods, but they're known to be gods that show up at the height of a crisis to help solve the crisis. Good name for a weapons company. Just saying that. Yeah, it's very similar to Starship Troopers, yeah. They kept it a secret. They kept it a secret because he was a Tevarin making weapons for humans in the middle of the Meser era, and they were like, "Yeah, we're not going to talk about this." So there are some investors who knew that he was a Tevarin, but they kept it a secret as the company grew. And when both of them retired and passed the company off to a select group of trusted individuals, they kept the secret as well. It wasn't revealed until likely well after their death in the 29th century, when after the end of the Meser era, when they finally came out and said Clem wasn't the brother of Polly, he was Tevarin, and that all the weapons that Gemini makes are designed by Tevarin. Now, he didn't know his culture. He wasn't raised in Tevarin. He was a baby when they fled Jalan during the end of the Second Tevarin War, and his parents were killed when he was very young. They both met. It doesn't really give an indication, but I'm assuming is like preteen, teen age, surviving on the streets of New Junction on Low in the Corel system. So, like, he was raised on the streets, you know. Hey, Technomage. How big is the alien population supposed to be in the Stanton system, and how many Tevarin? We don't know, because they haven't implemented the Tevarin in there, but likely bigger than you think, but still a minority. The Banu are everywhere, probably in higher populations than the Tevarin are, but the Tevarin are definitely not, they're not uncommon. But yeah, Man Solo, essentially what I just described in terms of, we said, well, it sounds like Starship Troopers. There's a lot of Heinlein in the UEE in terms of the Starship Troopers kind of ethos for that. So I don't know if that was intentional or not, but like the main reason why they do the citizenship thing doesn't seem to be like, doesn't seem to be like, oh yeah, because a citizen protects the body politic with their lives. It's less that and more as a means to limit the number of votes that exist. It's less Starship Troopers and more Rome. If you're going to vote, you're expected to serve. Why? Because it's the culture. It's what you do. You don't necessarily have to serve, but you should. Hey, Frankie. What's my favorite alien race and why? The Banu, because they're fucking lovable. They're absolutely adorable. They're adorable little slave traders. They have such a awesome sense of family, which is weird. Like, everything is a transaction, but everyone is family. You know, it's like once you're part, it's like you are an outsider. But the second you're in the inner circle, which is really easy to be part of the inner circle, you're not just part of the inner circle, you are family. They will die for you, kind of thing. It's like, I don't know you, who you are, I don't trust you. Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm here to sign up for that job. Brother! I will kill your enemies, you know? They're just such an on-off switch with them. Well, I wouldn't say brother because they don't have a. They also are agendered. They don't have a gender. They don't have genders. They don't have binary genders. They just have one gender. So they don't have gendered words. So they would just be like sibling. The functionally compulsory military service for full citizenship. Yeah, but in it's I always get the two. It's not by law because you can get citizenship by not serving. You just have to do some service to the UEE. I like the Xi'an, and I'd like to know more about the Xi'an, but I feel like the Xi'an would be more likely to stab me in the back and tell me it was like a Tevarin. You know, you can't trust the Xi'an. Like, I get it, why, but it's also like there's a reason why. There's some logic behind don't trust a Xi'an. Why there's so much xenophobia about the Xi'an is because it's like they hide everything, and they won't tell you any. They won't necessarily lie to your face, though they will. They mostly do it in a way that it's not technically lying. They just never told you, kind of thing. What do we know about the aliens that lived in the Hades system? A lot, actually. We know that they had like this big bulbous body with anywhere between 6 and 9, maybe 8 legs sticking from it. So think like a thorax, like a insectoid's thorax. But then they had like a torso, kind of like a human-esque torso that sat at the front of it, and then 2 arms, like 2 grasping arms. And their legs were like really spindly legs, like really, really tiny legs. But that seems to vary from planet to planet and person and like species, like Hadesian to Hadesian. They don't have, because we've seen statues of like 6 legs, statues of 8 legs, and it's like, oh, maybe that just broke off. It's like there's no indication that they broke off. There's just some Hadesians that had 6, some Hadesians that had 8. We don't know if it was like a genetic thing, if it just happened randomly, if it was like people removed their legs because of different classes, like different social structures. We don't know. They just have various numbers of appendages. So think like a Drider, if you know like Dungeons and Dragons or like fantasy kind of stuff, like a spider with a torso and arms and big old guns. Yeah, lie by admission. Yeah, that's very the Xi'an way. We can trust Nago. You can go. You need to watch more of my history stuff. You do. One of the things I want to do starting next year is an ambitious, dumb project called The History of the UEE. And by I mean the history, I mean the history. I might break it up into segments, but it will be probably 17 hours long. And I'm going to hate myself for doing it because it's going to get 4 people to watch it. Yeah, I mean, participation to serve, but it's not really designed as that. It's more as a design. Like I said, it's designed to reduce the amount of people voting. Because if you're not a citizen in the UEE, it's not like you can't vote. You just can't vote for senator or imperator. But in practice, the UEE is a federal democracy, a federal representative democracy. So each planet functions like on its own. It's really hard for the UEE, and the UEE doesn't really care to enforce its will on every planet. So most of the laws that people have to deal with, and most of the government they have to deal with, is their local planet. The only exception are people who are multi-system travelers, people who own large companies, people whose daily life is not connected to one planet, but to maybe multiple planets or multiple systems. Those are the people where it makes the most sense to be citizen, because it's easier for those people to move around. Because if you're a citizen, then it's easier. You get easier to get permits and permissions. It's just makes life easier for you. But your average person doesn't really need to be a citizen. There's really no repression of non-citizens, of civilians. But there is a sense that, like, because civilians don't participate as much in politics, that they don't have as much invested, and there might be some abuses, because if a civilian comes up from poverty, doesn't want to join the military, and then ends up wanting to kind of form a multi-system corp, there's a lot of roadblocks for them. So, you know, it was a solution for a time, because it's not even a UEE thing. It's not even like the Measure thing, or the even before the Measures, the UPE. It actually goes all the way back to the UNE as a seems to be as a means to encourage unity through like a place a place where you had multiple planets with their own identities. You had Earth, Mars, you had the moons of Jupiter. They all had their own kind of countries, as it were, that functioned on their own, and there were multiple countries on Earth. You needed a way to unify all of those people as a human species before you even met any aliens, and military service, collective military service, was a great way of doing that. So the UEE, is the UEE well functioning? Yes and no. The UEE is incredibly powerful. If the UEE wanted to, for instance, invade the Nix system or Pyro and conquer it, they could. They could destroy Ruin Station in seconds. One fleet, a Bengal fleet going through Nix through Pyro, would end anything in that Pyro system. And I know, and you know how I know, because that's what they did in Stanton. They came in and just laid waste to anybody who didn't submit to them, because they weren't the first ones to discover it. And if they did the same thing to Nexus. They just destroyed anybody in the Nexus system. The problem isn't necessarily do they not have the power and do they not have the ability to kind of control things. It's more of they're stretched thin. Their forces are dealing with an active ongoing war with the Vanduul. They're dealing with trying to patrol the Xi'an border. They're trying to deal with internal revolts and internal problems amongst planets which haven't joined the UEE. They're dealing with like a civil war on the Charon system, which has nothing to do with the UEE, but there's lots of human rights abuses going on there. Plus, you're dealing with active like pirate and syndicates that are active in places. So it's just stretched too thin to deal with a lot of the problems. Is it functional? Yeah, if they want to be, they're functional. It's a lot easier for the corporations to step in when they need to, because they have the money and the reasoning, the resources, and the purpose to take care of a lot of the problems that the UE needs. So. A lot of what the Star Citizens lore feels like the early days of the golden age of mankind, or the dark age of mankind, according to the Imperium, in the 40K universe. It feels like its humanity is reaching towards the peak of its power, like just before it's inventing AI, and which in the 40K universe is big. Which actually, I think it actually matches with the 40K universe pretty well in terms of time. So I'm not saying that Star Citizen and Warhammer 40K are in the same universe. I'm just heavily implying it. I meant democratically speaking. Oh yeah, no. Democratically speaking, they're fairly a well-functioning democracy. Corporations really don't do a lot, but it's because a lot of the voters are ex-military. Most of them are ex-military, and because they're so much smaller, there tends to be a lot more focus on conservative mind. Even the most liberal of the parties in the UEE is still fairly conservative. Not in the U.S. sense, but in the world sense. They're the ones who are pushing the Vanduul out there, Techno. The Vanduul are running from the orcs. Yeah, I was going to say that same thing there, Shin. What was your question there? I didn't see it, Get. Does the Blue Man scare me? I read some lore story about the lone traveler who traveled through the Hades system, the empty ship, but he had a sense of presence. Oh man, that story is creepy. I want to know more about the Blue Man. I'm interested to see the stories, because Hades is a haunted system. It's a graveyard. So it makes sense that people who are superstitious and spooked walking through a graveyard are going to see things that aren't necessarily there. What you're telling us, Paul, is that Mezzer is on ice somewhere, and he merely is biding his time to become the God Emperor. No, I'm saying that the God Emperor already exists in Star Citizen. You just have to find him. He's somewhere on Earth. Look in the Himalayas. That would be a nice little nod as a joke, is to find out like a lab in the Himalayas. You could do missions out of. The Mantis doesn't have a huge fuel capacity, no escape. MK DOS sounds interesting to it. My history of the UAE, it would be interesting. It would just take a lot of effort and time. And, like, I also want to clarify a little something about the Xi'an. The Xi'an aren't necessarily just, like, bad guys because they lie. It's more that the Xi'an are they're hard to trust because they themselves were burned many times. And so it's become their culture to be secretive, to be insular, not to let other people see what's going on. And that has a lot to do with their early history. There's a lot of civil war. There's a lot of fighting. The great houses used to fight each other all the time in the Xi'an history. So opening yourself up to the wrong person would mean death. Sometimes not just for you, but for your whole family, for your whole clan. So it's very important in the Xi'an culture to not open up to everyone, to not give everyone all the information that they don't need. So, important question: how close are you? Do you think UAE is in developing a glare-resistant glass? Man, that's some insane future tech you're talking about there. I don't know what you're talking about. Funny story though, Shin. That's actually a bug in Star Citizen. That's a bug that's been around for a long time with glass. It has to do with CryEngine that they haven't yet. They fixed it a couple times, but haven't gone back to fix it because it's not a huge priority. It would be interesting to see the current Mezzer dynasty try to become a major political figure, bringing that family back from the Imperial dominance. I feel like that's probably something they're going to do there, MK. I feel like that's probably a story, because we do have the missing Mezzer. So the sister of the last Mezzer was never accounted for. So she may have survived the fall of the Mezzers, and I don't. And it's been too long for her to be still alive, but her children might be alive if she had children. And so they might have a legitimate claim, because like the imperatorship should be theirs if you think about that. No. Dude, here's a secret about professors. Anybody in academia will tell you this. Being a professor sounds great. There's this term called publish or perish. And you'd have to specify. You'd have to like specialize. I like history. I like social studies. I like lots of different things. If I was to be a professor at a college, I would have to teach early modern European history from England, which is interesting, but I couldn't then have to write essay after essay or book after book about that time period. I'd want to shoot myself. Like, that just sounds boring. It sounds not fun. I didn't get into education to write books. I got into education to teach. The closest thing I'd ever thought about is to get a master's degree and go to teach as an instructor at a community college, because that's kind of the level I'd be okay with. People who want to be there, some more advanced concepts, but not having to be funneled into having to teach or having to publish all the time. I mean, I'm 90% of the time I'm dealing with emails anyways, but I'd rather be dealing with emails than and reading essays than having to do what I'm currently doing. More expensive. It's more complicated. You should have the whole T for night vision. No. The reason why they don't want to do night vision is because it would cause some problems for balance purposes. I feel like they could probably do it as a add-on, as something that you'd have to take away something else for, like as a balance thing. Like, yeah, you can have night vision, but you can't have this, something else. You can't have scanning technology, or you can't have, something, you'd have to remove some part of your HUD or something like that. Have any of my students ever found my Twitch, YouTube stuff? Yes, several of them have. I don't tell them what it is. I do tell them I do it, but I don't tell them what it is. Several of them have found me. I ask them, I basically tell them, it's like, if I knew who they are, I'm just like, unless you're 18, you shouldn't be watching this. There's an age restriction thing on this. It's 17. If you're watching this, then you're breaking Twitch's rules. And I basically say that kind of thing because if those students were to go to their parents and be like, hey, look, my teacher is streaming, and they hear me say a swear, then I can get fired. But I can also come back and say, hey, it's my own personal time, and I had an age restriction on it. That child is 15 years old. They should not have gotten onto that stream. So if a parent got angry about it, I can be like, you're a shitty parent. Don't get angry at me because you're a shitty parent who can't watch after their kid and monitor their internet activity. It's an outside chance that would happen, but I'd better be safe than sorry. I've heard horror stories out there of bad things happening because of what somebody said on the internet. Because pretty much as a teacher in the United States, there's almost always some kind of moral clause in your contract, which basically means that if you do something that is morally subject and that it's never defined, then they have the right to terminate your contract for whatever reason, for that reason. So it's basically, we don't like you, we can fire you. SOSULI is better than PhD. Yes. Thank you, White Wolf. Maybe we should do some scholarly work or meaningful teaching every now and then. Ouch, Shin. Ouch. I don't do meaningful teaching. Oh, you're talking about like, yeah, maybe as a professor you do some scholarly work or meaningful teaching. Yeah, okay. That was like, damn, that's a cut. Space Nazis? The Mezzers aren't really so much space Nazis, but they're definitely space fascists. I mean, like, the popular thing is called them Space Hitler. But the Mezzers aren't really Space Hitler in the sense of, like, they're one-to-one Hitler. We're talking, like, we're talking more, more like Space Caesar, like the emperors of Rome, or the emperor dynasties of China, Persian emperors. Some of them are decent, some of them are insane. But they're less, they're more fascistic, but more dictator than anything else. How do you find the refueling stations? The refueling stations are at any of the stations. So if you go to your map, go to your Mobiglass, you pull up the Mobiglass, and then if you go to the Skyline is the name of it, you should be able to see, you can scroll out with your scroll wheel and you should be able to see the whole map. Any point on there that has like the Crew L1 or there's usually a station orbiting the main body of a planet that'll be called like Everest Harbor, or it'll be like Port or Harbor or something like that. Those are stations, and you'll see like a little space station icon. Just click that. That's your space station. All the stations are refueling stations. Space Mao? Not really Space Mao. Space Mao was more of a populist. To a degree, Mezzer was a populist. I wouldn't call him necessarily a populist, though. He was a populist amongst citizens. Not amongst the civilians, though. Are planets in Stanton the only planets owned by corporations, or are there other Aegis and Anvil planets? They're the only ones that are outright owned by corporation. Anvil has its headquarters in New Kiev on Terra, and Aegis's headquarters, I think, is Earth. Can't remember where. Possibly New York. New Austin is where Origin is headquartered, though it used to be from Berlin, I want to say, or Frankfurt. It used to be their headquarters. And then they moved to Terra in a big kind of scandal that Origin would leave, this luxury manufacturer would leave Earth and go somewhere else. Parent planet is a barren moon. Listen, don't say nasty things about Magnus. Magnus is a perfectly beautiful planet, and you will respect my in-lore homeworld. If I was to be born anywhere, I feel like it'd be Magnus. Magnus is the homeworld where of Drake. It's also the homeworld of Kruger. Though they've moved. It's basically what oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. The current home of the UE Navy, where they train everybody, and they also build all the major fleet ships. It's where the Retribution was built. I can't remember the name of it. I don't know why. Not Angeli, but anyways, that used to be Magnus, and then they moved. Origins based in New Austin, Terra. The Xi'an interfered with the 2950 elections. Do you think they would want to win? Depends. We don't know a lot about the Xi'an's motives. I feel like the best option they probably would take is the devil you know rather than the devil you don't. The devil you know is Titus Costigan. Titus or Ilyana Sharad, the Universalists. They seem to have a very good working relationship with the Universalists. They might choose Nago, but Nago isn't really... They're going to interfere. Nago is too unknown. It's too much of... it would be too obvious for them as well to try to choose a transitionalist, because they have such good ties with the transitionalists. And I would say Addison, because Addison's also very okay with opening up trade with the Xi'an, but she's also very much about technological trade with the Xi'an, and the Xi'an are kind of iffy about that. So, nope. The 2P series are the only ships that they make. In fact, the joke is that Kruger was a parts manufacturer that made mostly parts for RSI ships. And the joke became that they make all the ships, they make all the parts of the ship, but never, but not the ship. They make all the parts, but never the ship, which is where the P series came from. They wanted to build ships. They decided, hey, let's try and build a ship. We already make all the parts for ships. Let's just take our parts and make our own ship. And so they made it, and because they had such a good working relationship with RSI adopted those ships for the Connie. So all the Constellation variants that have them are there because Kruger and RSI are like that. But Kruger makes ship weapons too, so. Oh yeah, no. The transitionalists will try to use xenophobia for their own rights, but the transitionalists are super tight with the Xi'an. No, she's more opening up with trade with the Xi'an. I have to look that up, but she's definitely not an anti-Xi'an advocate. Yeah, no, there's nothing. There's no references to it. It would be weird. In fact, the only references she makes to the Xi'an was that moving the capital to Terra would signal to alien allies that we can honor and preserve our past, but still move on from it. Because transitionalists are afraid that if we're stuck to Earth, that it's still signaling to our alien neighbors that we're still Mezers. We're still tied to our Mezer heritage. And transitionalists are very keen on pushing that away, removing themselves from the Mezer influence as much as possible. They even wanted to rename the government from the UEE to the United Stellar Union, something like that. The Democratic Stellar Union, DSU. They wanted to change the name, but that was frowned upon. Why are humans the only race massively expanding through the systems and not others? Like, the Vandul are nomads, but the rest aren't, right? The Banu don't really have a desire to expand unless there is profit in it or some reason to. And the Xi'an may be expanding, but the last time they expanded, they went into direct conflict with the Krthok, and the entire Imperial family was assassinated. So they're not too keen on that. And in terms of Xi'an, I don't know if I said Tevarin, I meant to say Xi'an. In terms of Xi'an lifespan, that whole entire Imperial family dying thing happened 2 generations ago. It would be the equivalent of it happening in the 1970s for us today. Very much in living memory. There were people alive then who are still alive now. Or maybe not alive now. It's probably more like happening in the 1940s. So like 2 or 3 generations ago. Their grandparents lived through that time, or their great grandparents did. They were born in the middle of that time or towards the end of that time, kind of thing. Because the current emperor of the Xi'an Empire, his mother was the one who retook after that tumult. So we actually don't know if, like I said earlier, the Xi'an lie to your face. Well, they lie through omission. Because they'll lie through omission, we don't know if they are expanding. They could be expanding. We just don't see it. We actually don't even know the extent of the Xi'an Empire, except for the ones that we've discovered, either by accident or they let us know about. There could be a much larger Xi'an Empire that dwarfs the UEE. We just haven't dealt with it. And maybe the reason why the Xi'an Empire hasn't just steamrolled humanity is because they're so afraid if they pull their forces away from the border with the Krthok, they would get smashed by the Krthok. So we don't know if humanity is the only one expanding. And humanity is slowing down its expansion. It's very, very few systems have been found in the last 100 years. Maybe 2 or 3. See, that's what the centralists thought as well, Jimmy. We need to find these Krthok. They sent somebody to go find them. The Xi'an found them instantly, and then then arrested them for espionage. And they didn't just arrest them for espionage; they arrested them for espionage and then brought them before human press. And just said, "Hey, look, we found the human spy that was trying to infiltrate the Xi'an Empire by going deep in the Xi'an Empire, even though we told them not to. Look at this human spy." And this happened recently, actually, because the current imperator had to go negotiate for their release. It became a huge political boondoggle. It was a massive interstellar incident, I guess you could say. Huge trust issues happened after that. Yeah, that's it too. Yeah, the Tevarin or the Vandul also did, and the Tevarin are too scattered. They're too smashed to really expand anywhere. That leaves Vandul and humanity. Thank you guys for coming in and watching us. I know there's a debate, an actual real life political thing going on for those of us in America, which is important. I have chosen not to watch those because I don't find a purpose to. I've already made up my mind, and I don't. If I wanted to see shrieking, high pitched shrieking, and or, there's no point. Like I can't. I'm not gonna watch that unless there is some reason to beyond. There really isn't. Can two ships T-bone each other in quantum? Like reality? No. Can they do it in game? No. Can they do it in lore? No, because the quantum computers are constantly scanning ahead of them to stop you. So if like they see a object in distance with your quantuming, they'll actually slow you down. Because it's not faster than light, it's just a significant portion of speed of light. Yeah, I'm not going to watch it for entertainment, though. Need to make the turtle soup. I'm going to make it the priority for myself in the game. Woo! Jimmy wants to get disappeared. Wants to get disappeared in the Xi'an Empire. Is anything known about the Kurthok other than the fact that they may be real? Then that they may be real, and that they assassinated lots of people. They are the traditional, generationally long enemies of the Xi'an. They may actually control the original Xi'an homeland, the homeworld. And they've been fighting. They're still fighting the Xi'an in what are called the Spirit Wars, which are still going on. They seem to be an ongoing generational conflict that has some lulls in peace, but it's never ended. Never been an official armistice. So it's still going on. It's just not currently inflamed as far as we know. And that's one of the things to understand about the Xi'an, is that it's as likely that the Xi'an are not steamrolling humanity because they see humanity as a potential ally against the Kurthok. Because they think humanity doesn't think like them. They have different types of technology. They're on the rise. And if they could use humanity as an ally to batter against the Kurthok, they might be able to break the stalemate between the two. You know, they're could be the key to ending the Spirit Wars, which I could see some Xi'an arguing, especially the younger Xi'an who look up to humanity's kind of impetuous spirits. So who knows? And then of course there are older Xi'an who are just like, nah, humanity are a bunch of crazy fascists. We're not going to listen to them. So. Yes, or the space Japanese. One of the two. They're the non-Chinese dynasties. Likely the Huns. Could also mean that the Vandul are being pushed out of their ancestral homelands by possibly the Kurthok. That's an interesting theory, that the Kurthok are a group of humans which were uplifted in the past by another alien species and used as a soldier, which is why the Xi'an don't want us to meet them. That's a very interesting theory. Hey, Max, how you doing, man? The house is nice. It's super big, guys. I keep saying that, but I need to emphasize, the house is massive. And that makes sense so that they don't have to have the budget for another detailed alien race. I think that's not an issue for them as much as like all of the other issues that are plaguing Star Citizen, like, you know, iCache and server meshing and client to server rework issues and gameplay, like a lot more other things that are going on that they need to worry about. So it's not necessarily that there's a budget issue with them making aliens. It's just that there's a time issue. priority. Yes, we do know in Squadron 42 we fight the Vanduul. We don't know where you fight the Vanduul or how you fight the Vanduul. Humanoid rabbits or robots? No, execute. They're not humanoid rabbits. They're humanoid cat people. Okay, that's how this works. They're in fact the Kilrathi. That's what they are. Hey, Dragon Dios, give MSR. Yeah, man, figure it out. More episodes of Squadron 42 needs conflict out in the verse. It needs definitely more conflict. Yeah, it's probably going to turn out that the nomads, monkeys at a bar, are the Kurthok. What? The nomads, the gang and Pyro? Remember the Trandoshans in Star Wars world, yeah. The Kurthok are a species that exists on the other side of Xi'an space. Oh, from Freelancer. Didn't know that. It's been a while since I played Freelancer. Pyro is confirmed to come with server meshing. Does it still stand that Pyro is coming along with alien animals beyond the floaty voids? The blind oni crabs? Yes. We don't know. It depends on how long it takes them to implement the Pyro system, because they could have the Pyro system done. It sounds like they're close to getting the Pyro system done as it is. What's holding them back is the server technology to make it work. By the way, how's it going to execute? We all know the enemy of the turtle is the rabbit. The heavy lore. There is heavy lore on this subject. Hare, not rabbit. Different. Reminds me of the Etholians or the Breen in Star Trek, where not much is known about them. Yep. Nomads are aliens from Freelancer, yeah. I get it. Because there's the Nomad armor in Star Citizen, which is actually a gang that I think fights the... No. The Nomads are the Lear 3 people. Yeah. They're the Kurthok are the equivalent of the Thargoids in Elite. I think it's probably more likely what they're going to be. Some sort of ancient threat that will threaten everybody. Crush them! Good, retweet and spread the love if you guys get a chance to. It'll be a long time until we see the Kurthok and even the Xi'an, but damn it, all my alien crafts. I think you probably will there, Mooncat. I think like what depends. What really depends on is iCache. When iCache is in, I feel like a lot of stuff could be added that can't otherwise. And then the next big thing is server meshing to allow for them to create the connections to Pyro, and that could take, like, I am a pessimist when it comes to this. I guess I'm an optimist when it comes to this, because I'm saying, like, server meshing isn't going to come out for 2 years, which is fine. If they can get iCache out next year, they can add a lot more content to the game, as well as start implementing things like the dynamic servers, or the dynamic economy and stuff like that. There's a lot of things they can do without server meshing. Possibly even increase the play population. But like that also means that they could probably build a lot of systems or content into the system if it takes them longer to, because they're just sitting and waiting for server meshing to come out. They can make it better so that by the time server meshing does come out, they can just drop this system in that has all this new content in it, which seems to be, even though that's something that's been said a lot, I think that's actually something that CIG is currently doing. They're making a lot of content for Pyro. And it's not like, oh yeah, content we're going to have to replace because it's work in progress or things will change with it. It's like, no, they got the plans for it. They're going to drop it. And they really want to prove that they can drop a system in less than a year with a bunch of different details without having to take them multiple years to release a system, you know. Do I prepare a special show about the Crusader Industries when Mercury Star Honor comes out? I don't need a special show about Crusader Industries. I did a Crusader Industries Galactic Historian way back. The story of Crusader Industries, which included all of the lore about, by the way, all of the lore about Crusaders' ships. And I started talking about the Marines, and I never finished talking about them. They're an interesting group. I'm gonna do a little lore bit on them at some point. If we get the fabled 5-system PU with Stanton, Terra, Pyro, Nyx, Odin, it makes a lot of sense to add a Hadrian and Castra, which are most empty, and connect Terra to Nyx via large jump lanes. And one of those has a space station that's a hub for the Xi'an. Would probably be how we first see them in game, for sure. But I think that those are things that would be happening after the line of 5 is done. Which also would make sense, because I don't think the line of 5 is going to be done in the, for 2 to 3 years. And for those of you who don't know what the line of 5 is, it's Terra, Stanton, Nyx, Pyro, and Odin, which are all in some phase of development. If those 5 are done, when those reach that done, we're basically in beta for Star Citizen. Because by the time those come out, you're likely going to have all of the other systems finished, or at least in a somewhat stable state. And for those of you guys who don't know, beta for Star Citizen is likely going to be soft launch, where it's done. They're not going to wipe, but it's not released. I feel like that's likely how CIG is going to release it, just because it makes the most financial sense. Because when people are like, "Oh, well, this game is only got 5 systems. You promised at release it would have 100," and they're like, "Yeah, it's not released yet. It's still in beta." You know, but they're not wiping it anymore. So, what's the next hype ship after MSR? The Banning Merchantman. No, it's the Starlifter. It's the Hercules, which is also on the line. Yeah, Warframe's still in beta. No, it's been released. I would say the whole series is up there, but I also know that the whole series is probably not going to get released until the Band of Merchantman out, or close to it. Well, I don't know. The Band of Merchantman also may not be released until the game is released. I just know that the Hercules is definitely in the pipe, because they've been working on it actively and showing off work in progress. So we will see the BMM soon. 2 hours. In 2 hours, we'll see the BMM. They've gone back to concept with the BMM like twice already, so it's gonna take a while. And I think the reason why is because they came up with this idea of having passive income for ships, which they weren't planning originally on having, but then they sold the Kmart. So every ship from their catalog except the Genesis. Wow. Why no love for the Genesis, man? Shit. The beta in 2030. I mean, it's a meme saying Star Citizen's never going to come out, but like I feel like Star Citizen's probably going to come out in the next 5 years. Just because like everything, the gravy train's going to have to end at some point for CIG, and I don't see them it seems like the last major pillars that they're dealing with are iCache, server meshing, and the dynamic economy. And it's because CIG's also said that. So I don't know if there will be more hurdles that come over that, but I don't see any technical hurdles, because once you get the dynamic economy and the server meshing in, that's the game. Unless there's some other things they need to work on in the back end, that's literally all you need for the game. That is what the game is. It's the dynamic economy and then a single shard server where everyone is in the same server, but it's actually multiple servers with server meshing. That's the game. That was what was pitched. So. Do you think the next docking station tech is bench test for the Hull C? For sure it is. Yeah, the Hull C needs more than just the docking, but it's part of that. Yeah. Yeah, I depends on when they can get server meshing out. If they can get server meshing out in 2 years, yeah, 2025 they can definitely get the line of 5 done. If they don't get server meshing, if they get server meshing out sooner, I don't think it's going to happen, but it could. You know, lightning does strike twice sometimes. CIG could hit their mark and actually release iCache by middle of next year. Not going to bet the farm on it, but you know, they could. I could also win the lottery tomorrow, and I haven't even entered. It's not impossible, just highly improbable. Who wouldn't want to say Space 747, especially if it's very, very like mix and matchable there, Penguin Lord. They've never come out and said, Chris Roberts has not even said in that letter to the chairman that he's pushing tier 0 server meshing. I've never seen them say tier 0 server meshing next year. And even if they did say it, I don't believe them. Would I like to do a video / stream with Will, Adam, Sherry, and the other people in the lore team? Yes, but no. I'd love to have them to come have them come on my show or come on like this and then talk a little bit about their processes for lore, about where they get their ideas. You know, like what ideas going forward. Just because like lore is interesting to discuss, I can't imagine it being interesting for them to talk about. I mean, they're writers, so they love talking about their own writing. But it'd be kind of like talking to God about the Bible, you know, or Buddha about enlightenment. You know, it's like you're talking to the people who are literally creating the universe. I can't imagine, like. I would just end up asking stupid questions, which I wouldn't want to ask anyways. Like, what I want to know is, and I actually kind of don't want to know a lot about the lore. I'd rather find out about it in game. I'd be more fascinated with, like, examples of what they want to do in the universe. Where do they want to see the universe going? Where do they want to guide it? And what are some ideas that they would pitch to, like, the game development team about how players could interact with the lore. One of my favorite ideas is the pebble theory, which is a pebble in water theory, where players make the pebble that drop the rock in the river or in the pond and cause those ripple effects, and then the ripple effects affect other things, but the players at the starting point. Small action creating massive change down the line. That's more interesting. It's more fun. It's a heck of a lot more complicated and requires a lot of intensive work by the writers. But it would be unique. It would definitely be different, because then players would know that their actions in the game have consequences as well as an impact. Oh yeah, Platinum, you're kind of new to the community. CIG calls anything that's the initial implementation of anything tier 0, and then they call the next implementation tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Even though they haven't officially called mining anything out of tier 0, it's definitely into a tier 1 or a tier 2 stage. In terms of like most people's explanations, they haven't really said what tier 0 actually is. They just call it tier 0 is what the initial implementation. Well, Pengu, you're not the only one who said that they are working on tier 0 for. I've heard that statement before, that they're planning on doing server meshing for it. It may have been SC Leaks. Execute, if he's here, might be able to explain that more than I can. Rumor, it might be something else that was mentioned that has been misinterpreted or whatever. I've not seen it myself, and I've been paying attention to a lot of it, so I don't know if it's true or not. And on top of that, like I said, I don't believe them. So I am in the state of show not tell. Sure, buddy. Kind of situation. It's so hard because the lingo keeps changing, Platinum. For instance, the old name for Arena Commander was the dogfight module. And the name for Star Marine was the FPS module. So you'll hear old videos reference the dogfighting module and the FPS module. There's also the social module. And then there's the one that everyone screws up. The current implementation of Star Citizen is called the Persistent Universe, or the Mini PU. But everyone calls it the PTU because they don't know that because they both have P and U in it, and don't know that PTU stands for Public Test Universe. Hey, I'm glad that more people are using it. I don't know what he meant. I'm sure what he means by tech debt, but CIG is very, as far as I understand, in my interactions with CIG developers and how they work, they are very concerned with tech debt. And tech debt really doesn't affect them because one can't have tech debt if one doesn't work on tech. They're basically waiting for a bunch of systems to come into place before they do hardcore work on it. All the stuff that's in the game right now is mostly just practice / placeholders. The missions, for instance, are not the missions we will have in the final game. The outposts and their locations are not the places they will be in the final game. Probably the only things that are permanent are like the landing zones and the ships are probably the only things that are permanent. Heck, the planets change pretty frequently. I wouldn't expect massive palette changes with the planets, but they definitely change. But most of that isn't going to work. What planet is behind me? That is Selens, a moon. So on soft release, which CIG employee or content creator gets to play with, take Mark Hamill through the game. Why would Mark Hamill want to go through the game? I wouldn't want Mark Hamill. I would want Henry Cavill. Henry. Though in reality, let's all be honest, it'd be Buster. For those of you who don't know, Buster has incredible celebrity contacts. Because she's worked in event planning for a lot of her adult life, and worked in the theater and stuff like that. So she knows a lot of people, the art actors, businessmen men and women, and stage artists as well, like performers, musicians and such. So I like Mark Hamill, but he doesn't play video games really, but Henry Cavill does. They're not going to change the ships drastically other than to update them to the tech they need. In fact, that's probably the biggest place of tech debt is the ships. Because the ships need to get constantly updated for things like UI. They need to change things for damage systems, for damage states. Someone joked about the anti-glare or the glare from the cockpits. It's that's sort of a tech debt issue there, because they're going to have to eventually replace those glass shaders, and that entirely at some point. They just haven't bothered getting down to it. Alpha, the reason why you never see me play is because you only watch me on YouTube. If you watch me on Twitch, I play it pretty frequently. In fact, it's one of the few games I play all the time. And if you watch on, since you're watching on YouTube, you can check out my highlights from YouTube, Twitch streams on YouTube. It's called the Astropub Highlights, or I think it's what it's called. And you can see me playing the game way back. Used to play the game a lot more frequently than I do now, but I also moved recently, and lots of weird things have been happening in my personal life. But I played it as recently as last Thursday. Not Friday. Yeah, last Thursday. A week ago. That's what I was trying to imply as well, Lorcan, is physicalized components, which are actually in ships. They're just not in every ship, as well as accessible components, which are just not in every ship. I'll have to watch the video after this because I haven't actually watched the ISC. I didn't watch the ISC because I didn't think there was an ISC. I thought that, oh well, whatever. It's a small thing. Henry Cavill's your man crush. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. The man's an attractive man. He's window dressing, that's for sure. And the fact that he knows PC games and he's very well versed in as a gamer, it's kind of hot. I'm not gonna lie. That's all right. I don't really care about spoilers. I famously spoiled myself long time ago. For Squadron 42. But yeah, Alpha, I don't do a lot of gameplay streams on YouTube because I'm a Twitch streamer, a Twitch partner, and technically this is sort of a violation that I'm doing right now of Twitch TOS, but I'm not the only person who does this, and I'm too small of a streamer for them to really care that much about. And what I'm trying to do is say, hey, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you're following me on twitch.tv/theastropub, where we're live Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We're doing content from Star Citizen, other space and science fiction games, other MMOs, other games in general, as well as some of your favorite science fiction universes like Warhammer 40k. So you should be joining us there. We're live on weekdays from 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and on weekends, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. We're doing all sorts of content, tabletop RPGs, all sorts of things. You should be following us there. And if you're watching us live on Twitch, make sure you guys are following us on YouTube, youtube.com/theastropub, where we do Galactic Historian, which is a lore series where I break down space and sci-fi universes. Mostly focusing on Star Citizen, though I've done an Anthem lore piece, and I will be doing a Cyberpunk lore piece in the future as well. So if you like lore in Star Citizen, you want to learn more about the universe that you're playing in Star Citizen, you should be following us or subscribe to us on YouTube at twitch.tv, youtube.com/theastropub. Cross promotion! So it's working? There we go. Live technical problems on other streams. I don't think it was I solving someone else's live problem live? I don't remember that. I did an old Anthem video. I might go back to Anthem if it's doing better, and do some more. There's lots of things I wanted to talk about with like Fort Tarsis and the big famous warrior in that one. She's an interesting character as well. Cyberpunk's a very interesting universe. I've done a kind of a primer for the universe, and as Jake said, I did the video that I have planned has everything up to the Fourth Corporate War. And he's like, why did you talk about the Fourth Corporate War? And I'm like, I don't want to talk about the Fourth Corporate War because it's spoilers for the entirety of 2077. It is the preview, a prelude to 2077. Basically, everything that happens in Cyberpunk 2077 is because of the Fourth Corporate War. So I'd rather do the preview, or do kind of like a, hey, this is the universe you're be playing in, and then do kind of like a, hey, these are the gangs of Night City, and then once the game releases, do a history of the Fourth Corporate War, because I'm sure they won't go through the entire exhaustive history of the Fourth Corporate War. They'll mention it as the catalyst of everything that's going on, but so then people might be interested. But I'd rather them find out through the game than through me. Oh, thanks, Pet Platinum. Good to know. So yeah, lore. I like lore. You know, for those guys who don't know as well as I'm for the guys and gals and NBs, I am a history teacher by day. I do social studies, not just history, but mostly history. I do social studies, so government, economics, psychology, world geography, history, sociology. Teach that in high school. So secondary school for those of you overseas. And yeah. As a result of that background, I like stories, especially in lores and games. Government is fantastic and fascinating, and more people need to pay attention to it. Politics is very important. And I always like to put it this way. Do you like, if you're a gamer out there, an older gamer out there, are you a big fan of Battletech? Maybe you enjoy modern shows. Maybe you really enjoyed Game of Thrones. You know? Maybe you're a big fan of The Expanse. Guess what? You're a fan of politics. It's just easier to digest when it's not your own life on the line or your own beliefs. Because if it's a fantasy world with dragons, it's a lot easier to deal with than, you know, real life. Very important to understand. It's actually not that complicated either. Politics is fairly simple once you understand some of the basics. What do you think of the Medgun and lore? How does Medigoop work? They take these little bacterias. These bacterias called Fix 'em Up Good. They stick them in a gun and then they shoot you in the butt. And these little bacteria have little tiny doctors like stethoscopes and wrenches and masks, and they run around and they start fixing your body over and over again. That's how it works. I don't know, man. Nanites, I guess. Gel layer. Stupid question. I remember there was an incident associated with the reluctance about AI in Star Citizen. What was something about a generation ship? There's lots of incidents that are reluctance of AI. The Tokyo traffic incident, the Mars terraformation incident. The one you're referencing, though, is the Artemis incident, which was where humanity built a generational ship, put everybody in cryogenic stasis, put an AI in charge of the ship, and the ship itself had the top-of-the-line quantum engines and was just sent towards the nearest star. But it lost contact. Humanity lost contact with the ship, and they blamed the AI for it. That would be awesome, Platinum. Take the Medigun, put illegal drugs, and just like shoot people. Be like, you're now addicted. Did you get around to releasing the last season of Game of Thrones? Yeah, exactly. Called midichlorians. Oh God. Yes, the Medigun shoots midichlorians into you. It's now official lore. Window injector? Yeah. Which of the Imperators isn't blasting smear campaigns in the spaceport speakers? I think that's a trick question because they're all doing that. Jedi of the verse confirmed, yeah. Jedi juice. Jed juice. Hit me up with them Jed juice. Maybe if I get enough Jed juice in me, I can force choke the dude instead of shooting at him. Hit my Jedi. It's like steroids in the future. Instead of juicing on steroids, you're juicing on Jedi juice. That's no super soldier. He's just juicing. I can lift things with my mind. Just the event horizon? Yeah. There's my citizen saber. I would love to have beam swords, laser swords in Star Citizen. That'd be fantastic. How does the midichlorian works the midichlorian in Star Citizen? Very carefully. Though to be honest, how medicine works in Star Citizen in terms of like medical technology, most of it has to do with nano machines, things that will inject in your bloodstream and then kind of replace blood cells. Microscopic organisms or microscopic machines that do the job of repairing your body, stimulate your own body's regrowth, health. Those are kind of like the instant medicine. Like that's the first aid of the universe. But for longer term care, like those machines wouldn't be able to stop an infection. They might be able to slow it, but they wouldn't be able to stop it. They wouldn't be able to regrow your leg if you lost your leg. They wouldn't be able to prevent like you dying from an exotic disease. They'd just be able to stimulate your white cell count to keep you from dying. That kind of thing. In order to get like extensive care, you need to go to a doctor, which has more specialized machines and those kind of things. But that's what the MediPen is. The MediPen is just basically nanites you're injecting into your body to keep yourself from dying. Don't old backers have spear guns? No, they have crossbows. We kind of have the knife from CitizenCon goodie pack. Yeah, just give me a sword with that. While we're at it, give me a chain sword. To me, brothers! Did you say you currently have Cyberpunk lore videos on your YouTube, or did I mishear? I don't have them currently. I've written episodes that I will record before Cyberpunk releases. What's your next class about? It's about the spoopy mysteries of the Star Citizen universe. I've got 3 mysteries we're going to talk about. I already have written the episode, or have it written down. I just have to film it and record it, and then editing it should be easy. That should be done this weekend. But it's the 3 mysteries. I'm calling it the unresolved mysteries instead of unsolved mysteries, and I use that kind of format. And it's what is it? The mystery of the good Queen 12, the disappearance of the good Queen 12. The Lost Colony. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but the Lost Colony. Colony which a jump point collapsed. And lastly is the it's good music for the spoopiness. Is the mystery of the missing Tevarin from what is it called? From I'm gonna pull it up. I just had a brain fart. So the system is the Ortani system, that was the lost colony of the Oratani system, and Cabal. The missing Tevarin of Cabal 3. A planet which was settled by Tevarin before the First Tevarin War, or at least around this First Tevarin War, but has been abandoned, left to the elements. Yet, it has technology that was built as recently as 10 years ago. An abandoned planet with cities, full-on cities of Tevarin. Now, empty. Looking like Pripyat in the 29th century. Any announcement of the Connie balls? Oh, God. If you had a choice of which period of history to teach, what would it be? IRL history, that is. Early modern history. Early modern world history. Hey, Naz, how you doing, buddy? Versus in-game graphics is really good. I want to know if I can use the gameplay to make a movie, sci-fi cartoon, or TV show like Star Wars. You could. I mean, other people have done Machinima with Star Citizen, for sure. Yeah, but didn't the Tevarin, like, totally forget they had colonized that planet? Sort of. The Tevarin destroyed all their records at the end of the Second Tevarin War. The question is how did they get there? There is no jump point between Cabal and Elysium. There is a jump point from Elysium to... again, brain fart. Lear. The jump point from Elysium to Lear and from Lear to Cabal. The Lear system. Home of the Outsiders and the Sandworm. Not exactly the best place for you to try to, like, live in. But there's also settlements that humans have settled there recently since the Tevarin War. Why did the Tevarin go through Lear to get to Cabal and didn't settle the Lear system instead? There's no evidence of Tevarin in the Lear system either. You think if they built entire freaking cities in Cabal 3, that there would be some evidence of that. In Lear, there is none. So there might have been a collapsed jump point on the other side of that. Maybe that's the reason why no one talked about it. So no one in Tevarin knew about it, because the jump point collapsed between them. We don't know, or maybe it's not there yet. That's interesting, Gunsling. I haven't heard about that. I'd have to look it up. You've never seen Dementia in real time. Well, there you go. For a first for the internet. Just for you, Execute. Sandworms like chicken. Ouch. Ouch. We also don't really have a lot of evidence of Tevarin in the system. We don't have, like, wreckage of Tevarin. There was no evidence that the Tevarin of Cabal 3 were forced out. There was any kind of conflict, and even inner strife. It's just like they abandoned the planet. And you think if they abandoned the planet, there might be some survivors a couple generations, ago from that system. Well, we don't have any records from those people. You think even oral stories, rumors would have passed down from generation to generation, but nothing. The hell happened to them, man? Like, that's the mystery of Cabal 3, man. The more you think about it, the more what the hell it is. Which is why I think it's a really good kind of story for an unsolved mysteries style documentary. Because it's like, oh yeah, well, whatever, they left because of the war. Wait, how did they get there? Wait, how did they build cities? Wait, why why was it 10 years ago they were still building things? Wait, what? Why? Where? Who? What? Yeah, it was a huge surprise for the UEE, and they found it only like 4 years ago. 6 years ago. 4 to 6 years ago. So they're still investigating what's going on. Branagh. Yeah, well, that's where I think it's where there's a system. There's a settlement in Branagh. There's a small jump point though. The question is, if there's no large jump points, how did they build cities? Did they send them in one Aurora-sized ship at a time? What? That's a large number of people to be moving into an area on Auroras. At the biggest freelancers. You know, I know the freelancer is a beast, but really? It's a small jump point between the two, if I remember correctly. Let me look it up. There's a medium jump point between Elysium and Lear. That's a small jump point between Lear. I mixed it up. There's a medium jump point. You're right. But there's a small jump point between Elysium and Lear. So you wouldn't be able... You're going to send everything through to the Lear system and a small jump point and then build more content that you're going to send to Cabal and leave no evidence of being in the Lear system, even though you've got a perfectly good planet in Lear 2 that you're not going to fuck with. What? I didn't say it was a recent settlement. It's a very old settlement, but there's no evidence of the old settlement. Yeah, the likelihood is it's another collapsed jump point. But when did it collapse? Because there was evidence of that it was abandoned sometime around the First Tevarin War. Around the end of the First Tevarin War. So did it collapse before the First Tevarin War? Why isn't there any records of this existing? Yes, I know they burned a lot of the records, but there's no oral history of this anywhere. There's no records or references to it. No, a Kraken cannot go into every system. A Kraken can only go through large jump points. It'd be like trying to fit a basketball through a garden hose. The jump points themselves are variously sized. Yes, that's right. There's large cities. Cities usually use the term cities to describe large, well-developed areas that have large populations in them. No restricted jump point, no. That's why it's weird. The more you think about it, the more it's like, wait, what? No. You know? Pioneer's a large ship, I believe.
What are you afraid of?
I'm lost in old ways.
I'm not afraid.
Well, here goes nothing.
Yeah, they could refine the jump points. We don't know if they will or not. FTL technology? There is no FTL technology. Faster than light technology is what FTL stands for. They're platinum. So you're dealing with something that goes a significant portion of the speed of light, but not over the speed of light. So you don't have like warp travel, like Star Trek or hyperdrive, where they kind of like break the laws of physics. Star Citizen is mostly embedded in real life science. Mostly. except for when it's not. Rule of cool.
They talk about another kind of world.
But you just said that, Jimmy. Thousands of years. We've built cities because we have factories. And those factories are built with other materials that are required to be refined. So it would take a significant amount of time for them to build it. It was abandoned during the First Tevarin War, and you'd think that if it was in existence and in communication with the Tevarin in Elysium, and we know it probably was because it has technology which was around that time, which is how we're able to date it, that humanity would have probably noticed another jump point leading to another system, or at least traffic from that jump point if it was recently traveled, or, you know. So if it was abandoned years ago, why is its technology more towards the First Tevarin War? And then why did they abandon it after the First Tevarin War if the jump point had collapsed sometime before that? What I'm trying to get at is that I know CIG hasn't thought about this, but it makes an interesting mystery, because it's just like, kind of like the sacred Banu settlement, which is way the heck on the other side of UEE space. Yeah, like it would take time to build those cities unless you had fabricators or something that would help you build it. And in order to do that, you need large tools. And those tools you need to bring with you, or you need to build them on site, which means you need other fabricators to make those things. You would need a 3D printer to print 3D printers to print 3D printers kind of thing, you know? It's true we can get to other travels inside the jump points and exit on another arrival point. That was theorized early on. I don't know if that's the case or not. If you enter a jump point and you go out the wrong exit, you'll end up somewhere else. We don't know. The world's double as Lego bricks. I like that idea. I only use the Aurora in terms of like the size comparison, because that's like the size. I think the upper end of the small jump point at one point was the Freelancer. So if the Freelancer base is what you're sending to build a colony, that's a lot of Freelancer bases, or freelancers. And if that's a lot of freelancers, you think there'd be some knowledge of this fleet of ships that was being sent to another system to colonize it. Maybe some references to it. Even during the war, maybe even, discussions about it. Maybe family members had gone to go to this colony. Maybe some legends told about it. No, nothing. Zero. It was abandoned and forgot about after being severely developed. And still being used. Because it was used as late as 10 years ago to build technology. Jump points, yeah. Do you have to go through the jump points to get to another system, or can you QT for a long time to make it? CIG has said that they want to make it so that you could QT from system to system theoretically, rather than just jump points. However, QTing to another system would take literally decades. Real life decades. Because you're talking about it was like 1/6, 1/4 the speed of light. We're talking about distances, even in scale distances, which would take you hours to get to the edge of systems, let alone from system to system, which are, light years apart. So even if two stars were 4 light years apart, and you're traveling at 1/4 the speed of light, it would take you 8 years to travel. Even at accelerated time, that's a long time in game. So some systems would only have small jump points, which would be a system with only small ships and no capitals. Exactly. There are some systems that only have small jump points. There are some systems that have some small jump points and large jump points. In fact, if you want to, there's a lot more small jump points than there are large jump points. So you can actually, if you have a smaller ship, you can cut off larger ships by going through smaller jump points into intersecting systems. Basically take shortcuts using the small jump points. Temporal anomaly? I don't know. Yeah, plus you're also dealing with fuel. You run out of fuel before you reach another system. Then pass it by. Yeah, exactly, DFX. Except for Cabal. Cabal only has one. Well, it's a medium jump point. You're right. It's not a small jump point. There are no systems that are locked off by small jump points. I mixed those up. That there's a small jump point from Elysium to Lear, but it's the medium jump point from Lear to Cabal. How could they tell the site was used as little as 10 years ago? Could it be somehow teleported through time? Oh, I don't know, maybe. Carbon dating, radiocarbon dating of the materials being used to make something could tell you how long ago it was used, the decay of it over time, dust buildup, location. We don't know exactly how it's done. It's a one sentence line in the lore that, they found some technology in the bunkers and the defense bunkers, which were, ships and weapons and equipment, which were less than 10 years old. Exclamation point. It was discovered in 2944, so 2938, 2934. It's fairly recent. It could be tech level, but they said that the tech level is still that of the First Tevarin War. So we're talking like Talon, no Talon Shrikes, but Talon, no Shrikes, but Talons, yeah. No Shrikes, but Talons. In fact, Cabal 3 is why we have the Prowler and the Talon, because Asperia was able to get copies, get full-sized Prowlers and Talons from these bunkers, and then take them apart, study them, and then reproduce them. And the Shrike was a ship from the Second Tevarin War, but all they're doing with the Shrike is essentially a guesstimate of what the Shrike was, based off of what they've heard and what they know, because they didn't find any Shrikes in these bunkers because it's from the First Tevarin War. That wants your eyes. Listen, Hintern, they just didn't have their Geller fields activated. That's just their fault that they didn't have those Geller fields active. Question on the RSS site says the Hercules only has 2 medium quantum fuel tanks, but large quantum drive. This gives it a max range of 137 million clicks. Do you think that the ship will be buffed of increased range in line with larger ships, not a small ship? No. I think it's not meant as a long range hauler. The Hercules is designed for heavy lift up and down for orbit. It can do long ranges, but it needs fuel support. That's the point. It's designed as a combat ship, not as originally at least, not as a hauler. Just retrofit into a hauler. I have no idea how long it's been. It's been around that long enough. Thank you guys for hanging out with us here tonight at the Astro Pub. I'm going to call it a night. It's good to have talking with you guys. Make sure you guys are coming back every week, Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. We come in, we talk about lore, we talk about Star Citizen, we just hang out and chat. And we'll be back tomorrow with our first real Friday night party in a long time. We'll be hanging out with a couple of people from a couple content creators who might be streaming or just hanging out with us. We'll be playing the game, probably do some... I want to do a bar crawl. I want to hit every single bar in the verse. That you can order beers from currently, which is or drinks from currently, which is starting at at Hurston and going all the way to Microtech and see if we can do it before everything crashes. So it'll be fun. We'll do some other cool stuff as well. Does the 85X have storage space? No, it doesn't. All right, guys. Thank you again. Love your faces. Like I say every time, hope to see you guys again soon. But if I don't, hope to see you someday in the black. And of course, remember, Ex Historia ad Astra. There you go.